Welcome back, race fans, to another round 11 of F1 2019. We're on the second of our back-to-back home race streak. Last race was our home race for our team in England, and now we are at the home race for our engine supplier of Mercedes. We're sitting P3 in the championship right now. Pretty good positioning, all things considered. Probably should be a little further down the order, but it really comes down to the fact that Valtteri Bottas in the other Mercedes has had some DNF troubles throughout the season so far, and Giovinazzi, the other driver in the Red Bull seat, has been vastly underperforming what that car is capable of and is sitting way behind the Ferraris. We've been kind of battling up and down with them throughout the season so far, so that's why they're kind of our closest competition with Charles Leclerc, the slightly better of the two drivers points-wise right now. I do believe that Vettel's had a few DNFs of his own that have hurt his chances a bit as well. But you can see as we bump through our messages, the huge pile of updates that came for this Germany race launched us up to second in the progress chart. You can see, we're going to go through them right now. We've got a gearbox durability, we've got a major chassis upgrade, a minor aero upgrade, and a minor engine upgrade. We had that one major engine upgrade fail, unfortunately, but we'll be able to punch that one through for the next race as well. And take a little peek, see how the health of the parts are going. But yeah, only the one failure. You can see the big uptick there as we shoot past Ferrari. But let's get in the car and head out to qualifying.
Welcome back to qualifying, where we're waiting for the lights to turn green in the pit lane to signify the start of the session here at the Hockenheim Ring for this weekend's German Grand Prix. So then, Ant, it's another Grand Prix weekend, another exciting qualifying session ahead of us. What are you going to be looking out for over the next few minutes?
The first question is going to be who can avoid making mistakes. There isn't much margin for error in qualifying, and you have to bear in mind that the track conditions may have changed since practice, particularly as we've had a few support races in the meantime. If the brake bias settings, for example, don't take this into account, it's extremely easy to lock up a front wheel and cause a flat spot. Just like that, your lap's ruined, and you've wasted a set of tyres to boot.
Alright, so here we are out on the slightly cloudy day. Our second lap of Q1 there. Our first lap put us in a P12 position, so we're kind of sitting towards the bottom, and this is early on in the session. There's still about 10 minutes left to go in the session, so the track isn't fully rubbered up and greened in just quite yet, so we're really just kind of getting a feel. This will very much likely not be our final lap of this session, but you do want to set the banker in case, horrible things happen. But here we go, hopping ahead to the tail end of the session. Lap 4 now of the qualifying session. It's just finishing up. We are still sitting P13, but you've got about a half a second almost improvement, 3/10 now as we come through the last couple corners. Get a great X off the final corner there and get that half second back. So we'll see where we go for P1 or for session 1, which is P5. So not a bad qualifying result there. We'll jump ahead into Q2 and see if we can make something happen through there. But about a second off the pace of Lando Norris, who put up a stellar time. He only wanted to go into the 10, so I don't know what that McLaren had going on that lap, but it was insane. So here we are out on the medium tires to try and set a good banker lap. Again, we're just trying to keep our strategies options open. If you're able to make it through on the mediums, you leave yourself either the one-stop or the two-stop options. We have been able to make a soft medium work at a couple of tracks, but this track is pretty abusive on the tires, so it's not one that's ideally set up for a one-stop race if you start off on the soft, so you're going to have to get off those tires pretty quickly. But so we're going to throw the early lap down with the mediums. We're sitting P14. It's not going to be enough to get us through, so unfortunately we're going to have to go out on the soft tire and turn some better lap times in. But you can see the session just about to tick down to the checkered flag as we finish up our flying lap on the softs here, but you can see just how much extra time they gain us. We're about a full second almost up on the medium tires running these softs. So we'll pop across the line and see if that does us any good. A little mistake out of the final corner, but it shouldn't be enough to hurt us too bad. Yep, P9, so we just sneak our way into Q3. Not our best lap of the weekend thus far, but we do manage to cross right around the same time as our teammate does. And Lando Norris again sneaking through into Q3 in that McLaren. So here we are. The track has gotten cold again. We're going to cross the line. Checkered flag will wave during this lap. So there are going to be a couple cars crossing the line behind us depending on what lap time we're able to put up. But we need to just push as hard as we can on this lap and see if we can make something happen. No mistakes. It's our only lap of the session. And unfortunately, we want to try and get ourselves as far up that grid position as we can since we are going to be starting on the soft tires that we qualified Q2 in. If we are down at the bottom portions of Q3, it's going to be a very, very long race for us because we're going to have to fight our way through midfield and then, you know, make a two-stopper work off of that as well. And so the checkered flag waves. Verstappen is on provisional pole at the moment. We really don't have a delta to compare ourselves to all that much. I mean, we're 7/10 almost off of Verstappen's provisional pole time coming through Sector 2, so it's not a great lap for us. Just missed a couple apexes here and there. It's a tough track to really, really get the flow down on. It's just tricky. It's not one I'm super comfortable with still this point of the career mode. This one and then the next track, Hungary, coming up next will be another tough one for me.
We're very happy with that position. Well done.
I don't know why Jeff's saying very happy. P10 is about as bad as it can go having to start on the soft tires.
With qualifying complete, let's review our top three today. Verstappen, Vettel and Charles Leclerc. Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow as we head into the Grand Prix.
You can see the track slowed down as it got colder in that last session. I mean, Q1, Lando Norris put up a 10.7 to get through, but the provisional pole was an 11.2 from Verstappen this time.
Good afternoon and welcome to a place that is very special to us all in the Formula One community. It's the Hockenheim Ring, home of the German Grand Prix. Always good for a close scrap is Hockenheim. Think back to Alonso, Ricciardo, Vettel as recently as 2014, and I'm expecting some more strong racing today. It's 2.8 miles around the Hockenheim Ring then, with an average lap speed in excess of 130 miles per hour. The long curved back straight leads into a tight hairpin for the best overtaking opportunity on the circuit, but there are plenty of other options available around the 17 corners here today. Alongside me once again for coverage of today's race, it's none other than the great Anthony Davidson. Why don't we kick off by discussing Max Verstappen? They've had to change their gearbox. It's never a good start to a Grand Prix when, right off the bat, you have to contend with a grid penalty.
Well, at the end of the day, it's always better to take some pain now than parking it up halfway through the Grand Prix. Let's just hope they can put that new gearbox to good use and get the results they're looking for.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Sebastian Vettel will start on pole. Fantastic qualifying from the multiple world champion, with Charles Leclerc alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Bottas, Weber, Max Verstappen. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Hamilton, Russell, Norris, Oldtimer and Carlos Sainz, Perez, Raikkonen, Devon Butler and Giovinazzi, Magnussen, Grosjean, Daniel Ricciardo and Alexander Albon, Stroll and Pierre Gasly picks up the final grid slot today. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
This is our engine supplier's home Grand Prix. Let's give them a race worth watching.
All right, so here we are out on the grid. You can see the projected strategy is that two stoppers soft onto two sets of medium tires, and this is going to be a race I think that the midfield is going to have a good chance to shake up with running their one-stop strategies and really kind of work their way into the top 10. So it's going to be a battle for us. We're going to have to make some early moves, hopefully, get past some people quickly, and not lose too much track position through that first phase. And see, I was trying to fiddle with maybe getting a faster tire at the tail end, but it's just going to cost me too much time running that hard tire early. So just kind of messing with the pit laps themselves now to see where they kind of shake out in that regard. I kind of prefer to go with the slight undercut on the soft tire, so I move that up one lap. It's only going to cost me about 0.2. So I'm okay with giving up that little bit of distance there. But otherwise, we're pretty much sticking exactly to the default projected strategy that they wanted for us. So it's time for a deep breath, get ready to settle in on the grid, and line up for the lights this time around while that guy with the camera stares at me a little awkwardly. But here we go. Sitting back P9, Verstappen took a grid penalty with a gearbox issue, and we moved up a position from somebody else taking another penalty, but into the dangerous turn 1, we're going to go ahead and go around the outside of Lando Norris rather safely, and now look down to the inside, turn 2, as everybody else kind of lines up. We're going to stick our nose down, kind of back out of a potential move on Hamilton. It would have been a little too dangerous for our front wing. A little bit of wheel spin coming off of turn 3, getting the power down, but we're able to slot in to the slipstream, getting down towards the hairpin. So as everybody backs up in front of us, we're going to look to the outside of Lewis Hamilton. Little bit of wheel spin, have to crank the wheel and avoid it, so we're not able to make the move stick around the outside as the car got a little loose on us. Cold tires, heavy fuel load. You can be a little too aggressive on the throttle sometimes, and the car just kind of wants to disobey and step out on you. So discretion being the better part of valor, back out of that move and on hold position. But so far we're up 2 positions at the start of the race here, up to P7 now off of that starting grid, and we've managed to get ourselves clear of the midfield teams for the most part. Now it's just the Ferraris, Mercedes, and then one of the Red Bulls. But there's also an Alfa Romeo snuck their nose in there. I believe that's Lucas Weber in there as well.
Okay, you're in the top 10.
But all in all, not a bad first lap. Getting the tires up to temperature. It's going to be a very short first stint. Again, we're looking for a pit on lap 5, so it's not going to be a big one. We're only going to have a couple laps with DRS enabled before we dive in for the pits for the first time. But we're going to go ahead and take a little hop ahead to lap 5. We weren't able to really close up the gap into the DRS range to make a move just yet. But this time now, Hamilton has fallen back off of his teammate a little bit there, so he no longer has DRS. So we're going to get it on him, tuck into the slipstream, crank up the ERS, and get ready to send it down the outside. And we're able to get pretty well clear of him into the braking zone. He's just going to put his nose right behind us and tuck back into position. Not worth fighting us down into that corner.
I think the effects of the tyre deg are going to kick in soon. We should be alright for the time being, but you will start to find it a bit more slippery out there.
Yep, and as Jeff said, tire deg is on the way in, but you know, we're already coming in this lap, so it's no big worry there. We should slot out pretty much at the back of the field since it's an early pit lap. We're going to pretty much let the entire midfield pass us. Hopefully we're within range of a couple of battles and we can just start picking off the slower cars one by one as we come out of the pits. But into the second to last corner, dive into the pit lane. The first car off, we do have Hamilton diving in right behind us as well to cover off that undercut, and he's right on our tail. So hopefully our pit crew can give us a good pit out, and we'll be racing him on the exit here. So the yellow wall medium compound tires are going on. We get on the throttle and come out just ahead of Hamilton again. So we managed to hold that position down, but now coming through turn 2 is the DRS detection zone. So we're going to move, take a look of maybe defending, but we decide to go deep and let him get by so he crosses that detection zone in front. So we will have DRS on him. It's a bit of a strategic move there. So we'll pop open the wing and get a good run on him down into the hairpin rather than letting him have DRS on us and over defending early on there. So we managed to make use of that DRS, get that position back from him. We are, P19 and 20 as we expected. Came out dead last. There's a little bit of a train ahead that we got to try and chase down at this point. And then, of course, the other top runners will start to make their pit stops as well. You see a little bit of wheel spin coming out of that corner there. Had to save it. Lost a good run up on the next corner there, so Hamilton was able to close the gap quite a bit. And you can see a lot of cars diving into the pit lane, a lot of those top 10 teams getting onto their set of medium tires now. And Norris has just made his swap on. We'll be able to get through him and George Russell as well, coming up just on the pit out. Perfect. So we are back to being sandwiched between the two Mercedes. but there's still a lot of midfield cars. Basically everybody that started the race on those mediums is now going to be mixed in, as Hamilton is now behind us, has DRS, has the chance to get a run, but we were kind of side by side through turns 2 and 3, so he wasn't able to get a good run down the straight. Even with the reduced drag, we're able to maintain position by turning up our electrical deployment and giving ourselves a little bit of extra horsepower to get down the straight a little quicker. But now it's just a matter of putting our heads down and trying to chase down that group in front of us. And I'm almost certain at this stage Valtteri will also catch that group before we manage to get to him, but it's going to allow us an opportunity to really close the gap to the Mercedes. Now, depending on where Verstappen came out, there's a huge train just ahead of Bottas there. So if Verstappen got out in front of that, it's going to give him a great opportunity to extend his lead.
The gap to the car ahead is 7.0.
You see Giovinazzi ran a couple extra laps on those soft tires. He's just now coming out of the pit lane on lap 8 there.
Increasing the gap on the car behind by 0.5 per lap.
But we're not quite close enough in DRS range off of Valtteri there, so Lewis is going to have it again. He's only a half second back, and we have George Russell right behind there. So those two cars behind us should have DRS, but once again, we get a little better drive out of the corner, able to keep him behind this time. We roll our way very slowly through that hairpin and get back on the throttle. You see a couple of cars that came out behind us now after making their pit cycle. But there you can see a glimpse of that train just ahead of Valtteri. That train that we are going to catch up on. Our tires are slightly fresher. We're all on the same tire essentially at this point. The guys that started on their mediums and the front runners are pretty much all switched on to their mediums for their two-stopper as well. So they're taking on a little bit of extra tire deg, and they're just in a slower car development-wise. So it's going to give us a good chance to fight with some of those guys, but we got to make the moves quick, decisive. We can't let them hold us up too much, because once we get to these guys, we're both essentially going to be on the same strategy. One more pit stop till the end of the race. We will be on a slightly faster tire. They will go on to hards, and we'll go on to mediums, which you can see now Valtteri mixing it up with the cars in front. A lot of side-by-side in that train, and Lewis Hamilton right on our tail. So we're going to go ahead and move right a little bit. Hamilton's going to go down the inside, so we're going to squeeze him, take up the middle of the track until he commits to the inside, and then we'll swing back to the normal braking zone. He had plenty of overspeed, though, into the braking zone there, so we just kind of had to take our medicine and slot in behind him. It wasn't going to be a chance for us to really fight with him too much. But you can see Bottas now getting by Alex Albon in front, taking that position off of the Toro Rosso. So now we're going to have to work through a few more cars as we fall back down to P17 at the moment. But essentially, we've got the entire midfield in front of us. It looks like there might be, I see Verstappen's dark blue color in there, and one of the Ferraris in there, and it looks like another Ferrari's quite a ways out ahead of it. So that's going to give them a good shot to make some serious ground. But that Red Bull driven by Verstappen is an absolute rocket around pretty much every course. He's just insanely quick, so it's going to be a good shot for him to try and make a good move. But you see, as everybody backed up into the braking zone there, we try to send it down the outside, a little bit of a lockup, and we actually have to go way wide. We have a little bit of contact with our teammate as we are rejoining the track, kind of out of control as the rear end is stepping out on us. And what was going to be a great opportunity to get a good run down this straight with DRS is now just a matter of us trying to defend our position as George Russell looks to the inside. We're going to stick around the outside, try and get the traction down early, and we are able to hold him off at least this time. But a good passing opportunity as the field kind of bunched up into turn 2. We kind of overcooked it, locked up that front tires, and just weren't able to control the car into the corner and ended up losing us a fair bit of time. So now we've got to claw our way back to this little train in front and see if we can't set ourselves up for another move once again. Again, another lock up there as we're starting to get the front tires heated up. The more we lock them up, the more they heat up, the slipperier they become, and they get to that overheat stage. So it's not great for us. And this is a track that right now is punishing that front left. A lot of mid-high speed left-hand corners, and then obviously braking zones as well, where you're unloading that that front left as well. But you see them going 2 by 2 into turn 2. That's not going to help them out as they try and put the power down for this next straight, as we've closed way up on Alex Albon. Hamilton's got his way through there. DRS open, and now we have a good run here. It's time for us to tuck into a little bit of the slipstream and see what we can make happen. We're going to stick to the outside, try and go way around the outside of these guys. We go 2 by 2 through that corner there. We're able to hold our position, make a triple overtake into that braking zone. So managed to pick the right side of the track and make the move stick. We go from P17 to P14 in one straight. So as much as we botched it the last time through and had to work our way back towards that group, we really make a great move stick that time. You can see just how much warmer that front left tire is compared to all the rest. That 98 degrees is not an area you want to keep that tire operating in. So we're going to have to kind of ease off of some of these corners, be a little gentler on the brakes, make sure we can get that tire temp back down before we have an attack on the car in front of us. But we've got a great run on Stroll. We've even got DRS, but turn 1 is just such a tough spot to overtake into. So we have to break down a lot more than we normally would, and that allows Hamilton to get up the inside of us as he sails by and takes that position off of us. Actually, that was Bottas, and Hamilton is right behind us. So we're once again sandwiched between the two Mercs, but now we have DRS. We're going 3 wide past the racing point there. We managed to get ourselves through Hamilton and Bottas there. So we dive to the braking zone, but Bottas is just so late on the brakes, so good. He showed throughout the course of this race in that hairpin area. It was very tough to battle him into that corner, but now we're side by side through that flat out right hand kink, fighting wheel to wheel with these 2 Mercedes drivers, and now it's just a matter of time. We can finally kind of slot back in and get into the racing line. Now, turn 1 on the course here is a very tricky, just like, it's a little kink. It's definitely, breaking a downshift to get into it. But it's got a weird little hook. If you get down into it, you can really kind of hook yourself on the curb and make that corner well. But it's very easy to run out wide, and especially in dirty air, your car just, the nose doesn't want to come around as we're about to head into turn 1 now. And you can see just that little dab of the brakes, a downshift, but you can see how much the front end just slid out since I was following in the wake of Valtteri there. Just wasn't able to get the front tires gripped in, and we run out wide. But we're in a good spot coming off of turns 2 and 3 here. Easy DRS. He's too far back from the cars in front to get DRS of his own, so we're going to be able to cruise our way around the outside, get square in front of him, back onto the ideal racing line into the braking zone. But we're 13 laps into this race, and we're kind of trying to work our way back into that top 10 position.
Strategy is available on the MFT.
So Jeff's going to go ahead and offer us a new strategy. He wants us to come in a couple of laps later. I decided to keep the normal map strategy, so the pit team was ready, but I actually still ended up running it a little longer.
Our data shows the tyres are okay right now. We anticipate good levels of grip for the next few laps.
Yeah, so we hop ahead, lap 15, to make a nice move on the Renault of Pierre Gasly. We're still projecting to come in at lap 20 to get our next set of medium tires that'll take us to the end of the race. But depending on how much ground we're making on these cars in front of us and how our lap times continue to do, I decided to just kind of run the mediums until they felt pretty good. But another little jump ahead, lap 19. A few more cars have jumped in. Leclerc is out now on his, I believe, his final set of tires here, and he's able to use that freshness to get by us.
In first place.
But again, same thing. We let him by into that detection zone so we could have DRS to fight back on him this time. But now you can see yellow flags are out right as we make that pass, and you see that teal dot dropping through the lineup. Another Mercedes is having some issues. So we'll see which one it ends up being. Valtteri, again, even I was talking about at the start of the episode here, Valtteri, could be a lot higher up the championship standings, but he just seems to be bitten by the DNF bug. So we hop ahead a couple more laps. We're sitting P2 after pit cycles have made their way through. We are one of the last to get our last set of tires, coming in lap 22. So they had finally started to fall off, but now it's just a matter of how many positions are we going to drop? Where are we going to come out? And the other reason I ran the tires a little longer is to try and just get as much ground on the midfield in clean air as I possibly could. Before I extended the stint, I was projected to come out around 16th, but by running a couple extra laps, I was able to come out 14th, so I essentially made a couple of extra positions on the overcut, and then, well, what do you know, Giovinazzi is way down here on a hard compounded tire there. Not where a Red Bull should be in this race, but we've got DRS on him. We're going to try and make a move down into the hairpin here, see if we can't make it stick into the braking zone. We have a little lockup coming in, so he's going to be able to hold the inside line there. We go a little wide coming off. We are side by side now. We got to fight him through these next couple of corners. The flat out right hand kink, he gets a little ground by having the inside line. We pretty much hold the same braking zones into that corner. We're able to stay wheel to wheel, side by side. A little bit of wheel touch that sends me out wide, but it slows him up enough to where we're able to finally complete that pass. And now we got to go chase down Pierre Gasly again, who we lost the ground to through the pit cycles. But hop ahead, lap 25, we finally managed to reel him in, and Giovinazzi still pestering us on the back end. But we get a great drive out of the hairpin. Not a traditional passing zone, but we managed to go side by side in the kink. He's a little later on the brakes into the next corner, so he's able to hold his position. We're not able to fully complete it, but we get just ahead of him. But we're a little wide on our exit, a little bit of wheel spin, so he has a little bit of extra drive coming into the corner, but we're going to try and settle ourselves down in front as we come through the last couple of corners before we cross the start-finish line. But he's going to be in a position where he's going to be close enough to have DRS, and if he gets a great exit out of the last corner, which is not one of my strongest corners on the circuit, it could put us in a danger coming around to the long straight again. And you can see just how much he closes up into that fast right-hander of turn 1, and he's right up on us. He's going to swing to the inside, try and outbrake. We decide to kind of let him get the nose just ahead of us coming out of turn 2 through that detection zone again, so we'll have DRS to go by him. Giovinazzi also trying to look to find a way, and you know, Gasly must be using all that electrical deployment he had, because he was able to really stick it to us and really make that pass difficult. You know, being that close behind him coming out of the DRS zone is really should be an easy pass, but he was able to hold his own, and I had to kind of fight him into the braking zone. But it takes a full lap of battling, and I finally get past Pierre Gasly. Now we're up to P12. We got to make ourselves another 2 positions to get back into the points. So we jump ahead another about 4 laps. Lap 30, we've caught up to the two Haas cars in front as they are running 1-2 right behind, 10th and 11th, just kind of battling for that final points position. They go side by side, so I have to change my angle. I was originally looking to go down the inside of the braking zone, but when they swung out, it kind of left me out to dry 3 wide. So trying to fight them down the next straight, kind of had to go off the circuit to keep from collision, but just not enough drive through that corner to get that position back. So we're gonna have to slot in behind and try and fight our way through as we're still kind of battling wheel to wheel. It's time to settle in. The final sector, not a lot of passing opportunities. Very narrow section of the course, barely 2 cars really wide, and very twisty. So you're basically have one line through that entire section as you weave left, right, left to set up for the final corners. But here we are down the turn 1 drag strip. Decided to lift pretty early coming through there. Not an area that I felt really comfortable challenging another car. I just wanted to set myself up well for the turn 2 area. And they split and are fighting side by side again. So it took me kind of off my line through turn 2, but put them off their own lines and made for a pretty easy pass once we had the DRS open. So we got 3 laps left, and now we got to try and chase down Daniel Ricciardo for P9 in the Renault, one of those midfield cars that's running the one-stop strategy. You can see on that hard tire. He's got Lewis Hamilton in front of him. But we hop ahead to the final lap. We weren't quite able to close up Daniel Ricciardo, just not enough time. Verstappen took the win on that 2-stop strategy. And we come across the line P10, disappointing result.
Let's push harder next time. Okay?
Like I thought, you know, a race where the midfield could really shake it up on a 1-stop.
Red Bull pulling out all the stops today. What a great win. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection, a shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
The drivers are en route to the podium as we speak. What a fantastic win for the Red Bull team. They performed exceptionally today, keeping us firmly on the edge of our seats throughout the entirety of the race. Congratulations to everyone at the team. So, let's review the drivers' standings. Max Verstappen now leads the Drivers' Championship. Some amazing talent out on the track today. But Anthony, who would you pick as your driver of the day?
Daniel Ricciardo certainly impressed me today, an incredible performance.
Let's move on to the constructors. Our championship leaders retain their position, but their lead is shrinking. I'm equal parts exhausted and elated with this weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for the next one.
You can see Sergio Perez, Kimi Raikkonen, Daniel Ricciardo really kind of worked their way into that top 10 using that one-stop strategy. I feel like if we had started, P11 and had tire choice, we probably could have worked our way into the top 6, I think, this race. But you can see with Leclerc getting on the podium and us just picking up a solitary point from 10th place, Leclerc pushes us back down to 4th in the Drivers' Championship. But as a team, we're still sitting pretty comfortably in that best of the rest position. I feel like it's pretty disappointing if we don't get it at this stage of the season. We're just barely getting to the halfway point, but it's definitely well within reach, and we are shooting up the development chart, although we're going to kind of flat spot a little bit, I believe, coming up pretty soon. But here we are in R&D. We've got to repurchase that original failed upgrade. We've only got about 600 points left, so we're trying to see if we can afford anything. Not quite enough to do it in the aero development, and even though we have a pretty significant discount on our chassis, still not enough. 607 for those ones. Some brake enhancements we could have coming up, but just not quite enough to get another development underway. And another thing that we'll do, especially this season, if we have a regulation change, showing on the horizon, we'll basically freeze development on the car because we have so much to adapt compared to what we did in Season 1. But, we had just enough points for another ICE durability upgrade, so we're going to slap that bad boy on there because the ICE is definitely something that we burn up pretty significantly. But unfortunately, our run of top 5s and our podium streak comes to an end here in Germany. Just not an ideal situation with where we came out in qualifying. Definitely underperformed in that regard, and it put us on the back foot in strategy. But we'll have to head off to Hungary next, the last race before the summer break there. So we'll see what we can make do in that race, close off the first half of the season well, and get ourselves underway for a strong closing to the season. Well, thank you for joining me. I will catch you guys next time. Peace out.